Hi, and welcome everyone to Cape Ann ARTWAVES. I'm Christine Fisher, your host of today's program, coming to you by way of 1623 Studios, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. First off, I want to give a big shout out to our 2021 sponsors. They are Prince Insurance Agency, MK Fisher Visual Artist, the McDermott McCarthy team at Gibson Sotheby International Realty, Common Crow, and our partner C Arts, and 1623 Studios. A big nod of thanks goes to Steve Lacey and Pat Verga for their contribution of the music. Our program shines a spotlight on exceptional artists and their work, and I have to say that I have been curious to interview this artist for quite some time. Adin Murray's contemporary realistic paintings and drawings are just so distinctive. You might recognize his large-scale seascapes that just envelop you and beckon your eye to focus on that void between the sea and the sky. Adin's painterly drawings are equally mesmerizing and amazingly realistic. I'm excited to say that his work will be on exhibition. He's got two shows coming up. They're both concurrent at the Cape Ann Museum and the Jane Deering Gallery on Pleasant Street here in Gloucester. The dates for the shows, I believe, will be early this summer. Adin was raised in Manchester by the Sea here in Massachusetts and lives and works tucked away in Gloucester with his author wife, Elizabeth Hartley Winthrop, and their daughter. Together, they have pursued a rich and creative life. Adin received his BA in art and biology, which is a curious combo, right? At Tulane University and his MFA at Savannah College of Art and Design. He has shown his work in numerous galleries, to include the Woodruff Art Center in Atlanta, the Reimer Gallery in Nashville, the Paling Gallery in Savannah, among others. His work is in private and corporate collections scattered across the US as well as globally. Additionally, Adin's work has been featured in North Shore Magazine, Southern Living, and the Boston Globe. For the last 6 to 7 years, Adin has been represented by contemporary art dealer Jane Deering. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jane earlier this year in January, so if you haven't checked out her interview, please do. She's got 2 galleries right here in Gloucester. Welcome, Adin. It's great to have you.
Oh, thank you. Good to be here, Christine.
Yeah, you bet. It's great to see you. I have to say that I first discovered your work at Jane's Gallery, The Shed in Annisquam, and she was, she used one of her captivating photographs of one of your large seascapes in the shed. I think it was shot at night or, shot at dusk. And it was just compelling, for the interview that she and I had back in January. And your work just totally amazed me. I don't think I've seen anything quite like it.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to have you on the show. You also had a marvelous, very unexpected light installation in January at Jane's Gallery on Pleasant Street, titled Winter Lights. And that was fantastic as well. And a very different, departure in terms of your paintings and drawings. So welcome, let's get to it. You have been a lifelong creative. Talk to us about that.
So, yeah, I think like most people, I started drawing and painting, but drawing when I was a child, and that has continued. I think oftentimes we stop that creative process at certain times in our life. I just didn't. It just kept going, and there have been influential people along the way that helped propel me forward in that endeavor. I think one was an art teacher in high school who was very central in kind of keeping me focused and moving forward with that practice, with the creative practice. And yeah, so at a time when I could have been doing a lot of other things, which I'm sure I was as well, but she really kind of kept me moving in that direction, and gave me that extra push out of high school into college, knowing that I wanted to pursue something in the arts. And as you brought up, my undergraduate, I majored in something called art and biology, which was an obscure major at Tulane University. There were not, I think there was two of us majoring in it the time I was there. And essentially what it was a lot of art classes and a lot of biology classes. And the two never really came together, but in the end, it was definitely worthwhile and definitely helped keep me going through this. I took a lot of painting and drawing, photography, sculpture. I got a quite well-rounded education in the arts and in biology, which, you know, doesn't hurt either. So after that, you know, I went and kind of found myself, as it were, you know, did various jobs here and there, lived here and there. Always still continuing some kind of art making. You know, there were times when I would just sit in my car and draw. You know, I would go park at some beautiful location and just sit in the car and, you know, spend hours drawing. And that just lasted and lasted. And then when my wife, Elizabeth, who then was not my wife, decided she was going to go to graduate school to get her MFA in creative writing out in California, I decided to tag along. West Coast, Southern California. She went to UC Irvine, got her MFA, and while we were out there, we decided that when she was done, perhaps it might make some sense for me to continue my education. So I applied to graduate schools. There were a few choices. The real choice came down to going to New York City for school or going to Savannah. And Elizabeth grew up in New York and was not ready to return. So sight unseen, we decided that Savannah it was. And that's what brought us there. And that's, I went and, as you said, got my MFA at Savannah College of Art and Design, which was amazing. It was a lot of work. However, the tools that I was able to add to my toolbox in terms of technical skill and whatnot were invaluable to this day. You know, and now I just still continue to expand and grow on that base, that foundation. So, yeah.
And you lived for a while in Savannah, did you not, before coming up to Cape Ann?
We certainly did. So we got there. Graduate school took a little longer than your traditional 2 years. There was no rush. And then after it was over, we just loved Savannah so much that we decided to stay for almost a decade. We were there for about 9 years. We still have a lot of ties down there. We still go back regularly. Well, you know, when we could, pre-COVID. Hopefully we will go this summer. So yeah, so Savannah, it's an amazing, wonderful, beautiful Southern Gothic city that just, you know, once it's got its grips on you, it's just hard to let go of. But we were going to have our daughter was on her way, and we decided we wanted to be closer to family and that the Northeast might just be where we want to raise her. So that's what brought us back here. In Gloucester for the past, 7, 8 years. Hard to believe.
Well, listen, both locations equally stunning, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, both really compelling in their own way. And living here on Cape Ann and in Gloucester as you do, Adin, talk to us about the influence of the water. The water is all around us. I myself was taking a walk yesterday, and I was thinking about the magnificent pull that the water has on me, certainly.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so growing up, growing up in this area on Cape Ann, the water has always been a big part of my life. You know, from sailing to kayaking to swimming to just, you know, being near it or on it. It's been hugely influential. And when I got back up here, you know, I was painting some marsh scenes, and I was still painting the water. It was definitely incorporated into the work that I was doing. But our daughter was going to her preschool, which was in Magnolia, which is a little, as you know, it's a little neighborhood in Gloucester. And at the end of the road that the preschool is on, Lexington Ave, the terminus is just the ocean. It just kind of stops and it drops right in, the rocks go right down to the water. And, every day I was either picking her up or dropping her off. And I would drive down and just kind of look at the ocean. And it just started to dawn on me how powerful just the imagery of just the water in the sky, and how much emotion it kind of held for me. And I decided that, I'm going to start to document this and incorporate this into my work, which has really been the thrust of what I've been doing for the past 6 years, 5-6 years. This Horizon series, as I call it, which is, they're just paintings of sky and ocean. And, just pushing forward with this idea and just continuing to do it, I just realized that, wow, there's something really almost transcendent about this space. In one of my statements, I kind of done a little research, and in Celtic culture, there are these thin spaces which bring heaven and earth very close. It kind of lifts that veil, as it were. And that's kind of the sense I get from this space, the atmosphere, that void between water and sky, and then where they come together, and it can be so crisp or it can be so blurred. It's moody, and it's constantly changing, and the light is changing, the atmosphere is changing, the water is, it's ebbing and flowing, and all of that is very parallel to our existence as humans. All of those things, they translate quite well into our existence.
We have two images that I'd love to show that really echo what you're talking about here. The first image being Passage. And if there's anything in particular that you want to say about Passage, please do. And the second that we will also show is Float.
Okay, well, I don't have anything specific about either of them, other than I think it illustrates quite well how radically different that same space can manifest itself. In Passage, you have this very atmospheric, the light falling on the water and kind of guiding us out towards the horizon. Whereas in Float, it's more of just, a very crisp kind of beautiful day with this puffy giant of a cloud just hanging above the water. And they're just two very different moods.
Two very different moods.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very attracted to both. And I think, that horizon, that thinness that you speak of, for me, it also really echoes the uncertainty in life.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I think is, amazing. So let's continue on. Let's talk a little bit more, now that we've covered your inspirations. Let's talk a little bit more about your art practice itself, and what going to your studio and creating art, what does it mean for you?
Well, sure. It means quite a bit. It is a extremely large part of my day to day, after parenting.
Right. Yeah. Right order.
Yes. And both take a lot of commitment. However, so just in terms of art, it's a driving force in my life. It is what keeps me going. It is the thing that I wake up and think about, and then before bed, generally I'm thinking about it too. And then throughout the course of the day, hopefully making it, on the best days.
Right. It really fuels you.
Yeah, it really does.
It grounds you and fuels you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It's a very positive grounding force, for sure.
And with COVID, Adin, it sounds like COVID has actually probably influenced your more introverted self, right? To put your head down and continue to create work during this period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's in a kind of not strange way, but in a way, it didn't really affect. I mean, it affected so many aspects of my life, in
Sure.
everyone's life. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I do on a day-to-day basis, it didn't change that much. You
Mhm.
know, because I get up and we get our daughter after school, all that, and then yeah, I walk across the lawn to the studio, and I spend most of my days by myself. For large chunks of the day, anyways,
Mhm.
for the
Mhm.
working part of the day.
Mhm.
Um, so in that regard, COVID was not that big a deal.
Mhm. Right.
for,
Right.
for, for that for what I do in the studio and whatnot.
Mhm.
Of course, it was a big deal in other ways, but yeah.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, makes total sense. I love that separation of your home to studio, the fact that you have to go outside and enter your studio. It kind of adds kind of a certain, I don't know, formality, I think, to kind of creating work and having your own space. And this space is for creation,
Hmm.
kind of defines it a little bit more, I guess, is what I want to say.
Certainly, I think it's really important. Actually, at least for me, it's very important.
Yeah.
Just to have that little, out one door and in another door, and that
Yeah.
space is that space dedicated to, you know, making art and
Yeah. I'm very attracted to
creativity.
that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, 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 please, you finish your thought.
I was just going to say it's just a good separation. It's a good separation of the living space versus the working space, which,
Mhm.
being a full-time artist, you have to have the ability, whether you want to or not,
Mhm.
go and at least attempt to get stuff done, right? You have
Yeah.
to have that self-motivation, you know.
Right.
In the house it'd be very easy, to turn the TV on or whatever it is that distracts, right?
That's
Which
right.
there are plenty of in this day and age. So
It calls for a certain amount of discipline,
yeah,
right? For
definitely,
sure.
definitely.
So let's stay on that. Let's talk about your studio and talk about your process creating work.
Sure,
Walk us through a typical day and maybe some of your steps in
sure.
creating these magnificent pieces of art.
So why don't I just start with kind of the process of building a painting, as it were,
Mhm,
just
mhm,
briefly, like. So starting, I do use photographic references for my work that, I go out and take the images and whatnot. And I use those mainly for composition and color, and
mhm,
they're mainly used in the beginning process. There comes a point in the painting process where they really don't mean that much.
mhm,
They're there for whatever reference, but yeah,
mhm,
they kind of fade in terms of importance. So I will get these images, decide on what I want to use, and then um, build the stretcher, stretch the canvas. And
Everybody's favorite.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't do it, right? It's very
Yeah,
easy to
yeah.
go buy these things these days. And then in terms of preparation, the preparation of the canvas, for me, I like a slicker surface, as it were. I don't want a lot of tooth showing in the canvas,
Mhm,
which requires, I use gesso, which is just the acrylic polymer, and then Gamblin makes a more traditional oil-based
mhm,
primer or
mhm.
ground, which I will coat on the canvas many, many times until I get the surface right. And, all of that takes days. So it's there's the preparation of the canvas, which has these small ritualistic things that, in
Mhm,
terms of building and what I just described.
mhm.
And then when that's ready to go, the painting process starts, and that's really what a day in the studio looks like. It's me going out there and painting for hours and hours and hours, as long as I can, um,
Mhm.
as long as I'm motivated and it's going well. Um, and that's it. It's not that glamorous. It really isn't. It's a lot of repetitive stuff. I paint in very thin layers, glaze layers. So there's that, and I tend to work on the same canvas day in and day out. I don't have multiple canvases going, although that has changed recently with my current project. So yeah, again, it's not the most glamorous, but it's for me.
So, and what do you do when you're not motivated? I'm curious because, all of us artists, we do struggle with our moments, right?
Yes. So on those days when it's just not going well, I sometimes just sit and stare at the canvas, until it's going well, or or I just force it. There are days when I just force it. You just have to make it happen, and then sometimes you just kind of have to walk away, put it aside, for your own good and for the good of the work. So I think it's a mixed bag. I don't think it's not a singular choice to just say, oh, forget it, today not happening. Maybe that happens, but I think most of the time it's a lot of just being in there, thinking, looking, contemplating. I'll pick up the guitar.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, and sometimes it's just forced. Sometimes I will pick up a brush and just start painting.
Right. Combination of the two. When you create work, you and I talked a little bit about this when we talked prior, but when you create work, do you have a commercial intent?
My intent is generally to sell the piece. I want the piece out there in the world. And also, since it's my job, there's the importance of that, the commercial side, but yeah, I want the paintings. I don't want them to sit in my studio. Once I've lived them, once I've painted them, I don't have a need for them to exist with me any longer. I've gone through that with them. I know them so intricately, and it's time for them to go be in the world. I want someone else to enjoy them. I have gotten what I can get out of it, and it's time for someone else to get some enjoyment, some fulfillment out of them. Or that's what I hope for, anyways.
Right. I like that. You let them go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we move on to talk about your upcoming exhibitions, which I think is so brilliant, leave it to Jane to organize these two concurrent shows between her gallery on Pleasant Street and the Cape Ann Museum. I'm curious, have you and Elizabeth talked about collaborating together?
Yes, we have, and we have actually collaborated together.
All right.
Yes, many years ago, seems like lifetimes ago at this point, I was doing very different art. My art has changed. I was not always doing this realism. I was definitely doing a lot of abstract, kind of more playful, however you want to describe it, experimental. You're just working through myself, working through what I was as an artist and what I was going to become. Anyways, so years ago, I was drawing these faces. They're not realistic. They were more cartoony, very expressive, though. That was the point of them. And I think I did like around 100 of them or so.
Wow. And
she started writing these little vignettes for each one, giving each one like a kind of personality and a place. And they all connected. All of her vignettes connected. She would write them in little clusters, and then they would connect to other clusters. So we had this kind of illustrated book, my drawings and her little short vignettes, descriptions of the people. She gave them names and whatnot. It was almost like a game. It was meant, it was kind of like our intent was you would go through and try and figure out how each person was related to another person, and through the whole thing. And we actually brought it to New York to shop to some agents. And Elizabeth is a writer, as you mentioned. But then 9/11 occurred when we were there. So, and that kind of just put the kibosh on everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
put the brakes. And you were there when it
We were,
occurred?
yes, yeah, yeah, we were. We were actually in the lobby of the World Trade Center
Oh my gosh.
the day
Wow.
before, the day before it happened. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty surreal actually. Definitely a defining moment in life. But that was our collaboration, and then and then 9/11 happened, and we just shelved it.
Hmm.
We haven't revisited it.
Hey, maybe it's time to pull that out. I mean, that sounds like a very witty collaboration. Speaking of Jane, let's talk about your two shows that are coming up. Why don't you fill in
Sure.
some blanks? I kind of teed you up. Talk to us about your drawings that are going to be at the Cape Ann Museum.
Absolutely. Okay, so for the past however many years, I've been working on a little drawing project. Also, it's just drawing for the sake of drawing. It was to keep my hands moving and my mind working and keeping me in the creative space. Little 6-inch by 6-inch graphite drawings that are mostly of Cape Ann, not all, it's not exclusive, but mostly landscapes, the quarries, the seascapes, similar to the paintings, but more encompassing in terms of subject matter. There's 27 of them at this point, and they are going to be displayed at Cape Ann Museum early to mid-June, I believe. I'm still waiting on dates exactly, but that will be coming up shortly. And when I have firm dates, the museum, I'm sure will have it posted on their website. Jane, I'm sure will post on hers, and
Certainly, yep.
mine as well. So yeah, that's exciting. These drawings I've held off selling because I always wanted them to be displayed singularly together, as one piece. So that it'll be really exciting to see that happen.
Oh yeah, very, very much so. Your drawings are just, they're so incredible. And Jane, at her gallery, you're going to be exhibiting paintings and drawings, or?
Mostly paintings.
Okay.
Perhaps some prints.
Okay.
Of the drawing. We haven't gotten to totally flesh that out yet, but definitely there's going to be hopefully about 10 or so paintings. And as you said, it's going to be concurrent with the drawings. So most of the paintings are in a square format. They're also smaller than what I've been doing in the past, from 10 inches by 10 inches to, I think the largest square pieces are 21 by 21 inches. And then there's gonna be one larger kind of anchor piece. But yeah, so that will be going concurrently with the drawings, and the imagery for these paintings, while they do echo what I've been doing, there's definitely water and ocean. I've kind of expanded and slightly, well, there will be paintings of mountains, which I guess is completely opposite in a way of what I've been doing, right? It's a change of palette, it's a change of just technique. Trees are, it's a definite shift, a good shift, and I think the right time for this to happen. So
Yes.
and even in the paintings that will, that are of still show the horizon, I've added foreground and some other elements. So yeah, it's going to be kind of an eclectic mix of stuff, but I think it's going to be fun for sure.
Hayden, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Great.
It's really going to be such fun. So we'll be sure to check your website. And speaking of your website, give us your URL for folks who like to learn more about you.
AdinMurrayArt.com.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. What a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to you. You've been on my radar for quite a while, so I'm delighted we could make this happen.
Oh, thank you, Christine. It's been my honor.
It's been a lot of fun. I also want to thank our sponsors once again for their support of Cape Ann ArtWaves. And today I want to give a special shout out to Anders Johnson, who is our videographer and does such a terrific job. He makes us all look good as our magician behind the scenes. I'm Christine Fisher. Thanks so much for watching. We've been talking to Adin Murray, and you can catch this interview on 1623 Studios social media platform. Thanks again for watching. Jackie Ginnam DeFalco will join you next time.